On October 21st, Woodridge and Collegiate Friendship News Network bureaus headed south. Destination, Atlanta, Georgia. Here, our reporters worked on a series of election events leading up to the midterms. Our reporters also toured the Atlanta News First news station, where they got to see a morning meeting and a broadcast. What fun. FNN Collegiate reporter Braylon Wims, that's me, got a chance to interview Harry Samler from Better Call Harry on Atlanta News First. Harry was also our tour guide. I have a couple questions to ask you.
Sure.
So let's get started. First question is, how did you start your career?
It's a really good question. My senior year of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was actually a psychology major. And but I always wanted to get into television. So I convinced the head of the communications department to let me do an internship with the local TV station. And this was in New Orleans. So I every morning got up at 3 o'clock in the morning for my internship. I drove to the French Quarter in New Orleans where the station was located, and I started learning. And I started, back then we had people who did camera, we had people who did audio. Now a lot of it's automated. So I learned production first, and then I saw what was going on with news, and I started going out with reporters. And that was my first taste of experiencing what life is really like. I got to cover fires, political events. They started sending me out on my own with a photographer, and I started interviewing people. So that's kind of how I started. Not the normal route most people, and I would say if you want to get a job in journalism and broadcast, to go to college where there's a broadcast school. Like University of Georgia has a really good broadcast school. And in DC, I'm sure that they have a program there, because there's so many journalists that end up in DC. So yeah, that's how. And then from there, I packed my car. I got on the road right after graduation, not knowing what I was going to do, where I was going, and I started going to TV stations all over the Southeast. I think I did 4 stations in 2 days, and I wasn't going to leave until the news director saw me. Because there's so many people that try to get into this business, and you need to do something to stand out. And I guess I did, because I ended up getting a call back a few months later, about 6 months later. I got a call back, and I got my first TV job in Savannah, Georgia, working overnights from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. And all we covered was basically crime and fires. It was an eye opener about what was going on in the world. So that's it. And then from there, I progressed. I went to a larger station. For a long time, I just did my own video. So I was my own photographer. So now it's called multimedia journalists. So we have several people that were standing at the assignment desk that when they get their assignment, whatever it is today, they have their own news car. They have their own gear. They go out and they shoot the story. They pull out the laptop, put the video into their laptop, edit their story, voice their story, and from wherever they are, they can send it. It's so much easier now than it used to be, because it used to be that we would have to have a live truck, one of those big news vans like you see in the movies, and you don't need that anymore. We'd have to put a big mast up into the air and then beam a signal so that we could get the story to the station. And in Atlanta, that's not easy because it's all hills here. We're at the foothills, basically, of the Appalachian Mountains. So now they just carry a backpack, and it's got like 20 cell phones in it that are all connected. I don't know exactly how it works, but once you turn that thing on, they can get the signal here. It's basically you're sending your story back via cell phone. A very powerful cell phone.
Oh man, well, that's a lot. Actually, what you said goes real good into my next question. How did you even get started with your show, Better Call Harry?
So that's a good question. Things in television news and local television news, which is a lot different than the national news. You've got the national news, and then you have all the local stations. I was doing a traffic report. You know how you saw Courtney over there talking about, I think she was doing weather, but they were also talking about traffic. I used to do the traffic. Anyway, the news director changed, management changed, and a lot of times they come in and they want to move people around. And you go where they tell you to go. So I was off of traffic, and they didn't know what to do with me. And then one day they came in and said, "You're going to be a consumer investigative reporter." The good news is I had already done that as a producer. I produced for somebody else years ago, going after businesses who were ripping people off or resolving issues. So I kind of knew how to do it. I'm in my 7th year of doing this, and we have now recovered, I stopped counting at 4 million. So we've recovered more than $4 million for viewers by going out and exposing people, bad business people or government, changes. We've helped change laws. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So how did I get the name Better Call Harry? My executive producer at the time didn't want to give me a name. They just wanted to create like an investigative franchise, like, Atlanta News First on Your Side or something like that. But he also loved the TV show Better Call Saul. And he walked in one morning and he said, "This goes against everything I believe, but you're Better Call Harry." I'm not kidding. That was it. And I'm like, okay, I'm Better Call Harry. And I proceeded to brand it. I mean, so people now know, if I introduce myself, if they don't know who I am, if I say what I do, they've seen it on TV. And people write me emails every day. I get, 12 to 15 emails. At one point during the pandemic, when no one was getting their unemployment, I was getting 200 emails a day from people desperate for their unemployment benefits because nobody was working during the pandemic. So there will always be a need for consumer investigative journalism. It's really important. And I get to help people, so that's cool. And I talk too much. Next question.
I guess you could say Harry is better. His producer saw that. But my next question is, do you have any advice that you would give any aspiring journalists that want to be in your shoes when they get older?
Go to college and learn everything you can. Politics, political science. I mean, think about it. Local news, a lot of it is covering government. You need to understand how it works. Go to college and learn a little. If I could do it all over again, I would have. They didn't have a journalism department at my school, so I went to the wrong school. But I was able to go through the communications department and kind of make it happen for me. But for anybody trying to get into the business, go to college, learn politics, take other liberal arts courses, and major in broadcast journalism or print. And print is now, you don't just work for a newspaper. There's a gazillion blogs, there's magazines, everything's online now. So you want to learn how to write English is if you want to major in English. Although in television, when I write a script, I would receive all Fs in any, if an English teacher looked at it, because in television you have to write like you speak. So I'll write a script and then I'll say it out loud. Would I say that to my friend Bob? Would I? No. Police moved onto the scene. No, we saw the police were there. That's how you would say it. So it's a little bit different. There's broadcast writing and then there's AP writing for the web. So two completely different things.
Well, Harry, this is my final question. How do you implement your own personal philosophies or ideals into your show to make it better?
My job's to advocate. It's a little different. Most reporters go out and they cover the story, and if change happens, that's great. My job is to actually go out and help people. That's my philosophy. And as long as I'm helping people, I'm doing my job. At the same time, it is so important to be fair to the other side. You never know that somebody calls you with a problem and you start investigating, and then you realize, wait a second, that's not what happened. Oh, they left that fact out. Oh, and they left that out. And it's like, if you don't do it right and you don't get both sides of the story, you get yourself into a lot of trouble. So that's one of my philosophies in helping people, not just to tell the victim's side, but to tell the other person's side as well. Did that kind of answer it, or did I go off on a tangent?
I mean, a little bit, but it answered it pretty well.
All right.
But that's all for me, Harry. Thank you very much for your time and your better advice. This has been Braylon Wims from Friendship News Network. Check out Better Call Harry on Atlanta News First. And this is me,
Better Call Harry,
signing off.